Hey guys, today we're going to look at this. This is a 2016 BMW R1200RT. And I'm going to have Clay talk about this bike. It belongs to him.
It's definitely one of my top 5 favorite motorcycles. In that top 5, I would include the BMW R1200GS. I would include the Kawasaki Versys 1000 and the Kawasaki Versys 650 LT. That's 4. And I think in the 5th of those, I would include the Suzuki V-Strom. They would be the top 5 best motorcycles I've ever owned. And I've had probably 350 different motorcycles. You'll hear more about those in other videos. Not every BMW Boxer has suspension like this, but most of the bigger Boxer twins from 1994 to present have what we call a telelever. In these fork tubes, there is no damping. There is oil, and there is a tube that telescopically slides inside and outside. This is the outer tube. The inner tube you could see up on the top. If you look down through here, you can see it just looks like a conventional fork. Just looks like a conventional right side up fork. But what is actually happening, if you come and look straight in from the front here, right straight back, you can see the white coil spring. On this particular model, this is an electronic suspension strut. But all models with a telelever will have some type of a strut. The spring load and the dampening is all done by that unit. This here is the A-frame for that. It's the A-arm for the telelever. The interesting part about that is that the hinge point for it is right here. You can't see it on this bike, but it's right where my finger is. Okay? The hinge point for the rear swing arm is right here. Those 2 points being that close together puts the rider in a magic bubble of ride and handling. And anybody who's experienced a telelever and a paralever, which I'll explain in a second, together, will totally agree with that. It is one of the most amazing suspensions for handling and ride. Now, it may not be the best for a racing application. You know, people are going to use very high-tech inverted forks for the racetrack on race motorcycles, and it's good on the street. It's great. Streets aren't perfect, so it works out very good for street use. And you know, back in the day we did use it on the track, but it's very ideal for the street. On this side over here, we'll talk about the rear suspension. It's a monoshock design hooked to a single-sided swing arm. This swing arm, unlike most shaft drive motorcycles, which have just one universal joint coming out of the transmission with a straight shaft back to a pinion gear in their final drive, this one has a universal here and here with a stay on the top called the paralever. This grabs the rear drive like this and allows it to move up and down like this. This eliminates shaft effect. Anybody who's ridden a Honda Shadow or a Kawasaki Vulcan, especially the stuff from the 80s, early shaft drive stuff, you hit the throttle, the bike gets tall, you let off the throttle, the bike shrinks down. That's called shaft effect. That's impossible on these motorcycles. It doesn't happen at all. With the telelever design that I explained, there is no front fork dive. If I get on this motorcycle, I take it off the center stand, and I grab the front brakes, and I try to compress that front fork, nothing. But if I just bounce up and down, you can see the front fork is working just fine. I grab the front brakes, there is no fork dive in the front. So you have full front braking with full front suspension at the same time. That is awesome because it allows you to have a great footprint under hard stops, and you can hit the front brakes over speed bumps. Not that you would, but on most bikes you can't do that. This, you can have the brakes on and still have suspension in the front. This is not my first 1200 RT. I had a 2018 a couple years ago that I really couldn't afford to keep longer than the 90 days with no payment. But I did enjoy it. I put about 4,000 miles on it, and I knew that I really loved it. But since then I've had a Concourse ZG 1000, real old school, just bringing it back to life. I had a 2018 Yamaha FJ 1300, not the electric suspension version, but it's still was a decent bike. Fantastic power plant on that bike. Decent gas mileage until you were really having fun, and then it just drank it. But as far as being on the highway goes, it had really good mileage. I want to say close to 50 miles per gallon. But that bike in the corners always wanted to stand straight up. And you'd be cornering, and it'd be you stop with the effort, and that bike wants to be straight up and down. So I had that bike for about a month, did about 1,400 miles on it, and I sent it down the road, and I ended up with a 2004 Honda ST 1300 that Richard got from me, and I liked that bike a lot. And the improvements over the 1300 were that it handled very stable. You put it in a corner, it stayed where you put it. It handled pretty good. The suspension was meh. I did a Race Tech front end on that and a full Works. I sent the shock out to Works. It wasn't Works. It was another place in North Carolina. I can't remember the name of it, but I had the rear shock redone with newer, modern damping, and that really tightened it up. And then, you know, I rode one of these again, and it was just no comparison. The suspension and handling and lightweight feel of this motorcycle is just second to nothing else out there. Now that 04 was very nice. It had anti-lock brakes, it had the power windshield, you know, it's fuel injected, shaft drive, pretty maintenance-free motorcycle, just push the button and go. But, you know, that sporty feel, I like to get in the mountain roads and corner, and man, this thing really corners great. You can also tell this bike has 17-inch wheels, and the Honda, I believe, has an 18-inch front wheel. And I don't know if that's an improvement for the ride, but it definitely is a cutback for the handling. The FJR 1300 definitely had 17s front and rear, and it probably would do anything that you asked it to. It just took more effort to do it. All three of these bikes, in my opinion, needed a Corbin seat, but I'm very spoiled working for BMW. I ride the best motorcycles in the most comfortable conditions, and that is a spoiling thing. And you know, I don't operate anything without heated grips, and I put a Corbin seat on every bike that I get. The stock seat on this bike, most people don't replace. It's a very good seat. So, yeah, the other thing is, too, that was an 04 ST 1300, which was identical to a 2013 ST 1300, except for a few very minor changes that they revised, I think, in 08. But that's an older bike, and this one compared to the 1300, I definitely would have this over the Yamaha. And they are pretty close in price. The Yamahas are 10, 12, and these are between 13 and 15. You know, if you can find a nice one. This was a one-owner bike. He took the time to have the top case painted in the two-tone silver that it is to match the bike. These normally come from the factory in a flat silver color, so that was a nice upgrade. He took the time to put original equipment BMW engine crash guards on it, which is a good thing he did, because you can see the scratches here. And he actually put it on before he scratched the head. Most people tip the bike over, scratch the head, and then apply the engine protection to cover the scratches on the head. But this one had it on first. You can see the bike's kind of a mess. It's been ridden in the rain recently. Very, very good rain coverage. If you have a light to medium rain, no need to stop unless you have to stop. If you're moving along on the highway, it's going to keep the rain off you pretty good. It has pretty good tip over ability. It has breakaway mirrors that are protected by this bar end. You can see the bar end matches up nicely with the cylinder head. When you go over, you can see this guy did. There's no marks on this mirror, which is amazing to me. And there was marks on this bar end. I replaced it. So here's the other marks right here, and here's the other marks right here. This is pretty nominal, where you don't see any marks on the paint. The reason for this is the boxer motor. When you tip a boxer over, it goes down to about 70 degrees from 90, and it's super easy to pick up because it's such a low center of gravity. The bike weighs about 560 pounds, wet, with no luggage. And it handles almost as good with a 2-up and fully loaded as it does empty. It really handles the weight well. Don't know the actual dimensions. The ST, I think, is one of the heaviest sport tourers out there. We have to give it credit, though. The ST carries its weight amazingly well. It probably handles better than its other two competitors. I wouldn't call this a competitor to the ST, not to sound like it's not, but this is far and above the ST. It's just not in the same range. The ST is going to compare with the Yamaha the Yamaha FJ1300 and the Kawasaki Concourse 14. Which I have not owned yet. I have ridden a very short distance on one about 6 years ago, but I haven't owned a 1400. I will try one of those out and have a detailed review on that. I've had 5 different ZG1000 Kawasaki Concourses, and they are a fun 80s bike to bring back to life. Lots of information and help out there for those bikes. Super reliable. One of the only bikes that ever came with an unlimited 3-year warranty right from Kawasaki. These come with a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty, and I am a BMW Master Certified Technician for the last 13 years, and I don't do very many warranty repairs. Most of the repairs we do are servicing or customer damage or, you know, things not BMW's fault. If BMW has a problem that is their fault, they usually address it before any of the motorcycles have a problem. They do a really great job in that, and anybody who's had to deal with BMW under warranty can tell you that the customer service is top-notch, and they have roadside assistance. They come right to your house, they pick the bike up, they fix it, they bring it right back to you. They want you on their motorcycle.
So he's putting it on the center stand. Looks to be very easy to put on the center stand.
Yeah, super easy. Goes up really easy. There we go. So the key is, this is central locking, so you can unlock all the bags here and set your alarm.
It's keyless. You just got to have the key with you.
That's right. And you turn these. This is really cool. These little boxes. Oh, right. Don't leave this open or you'll break it. Nope. Everything missing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You can leave it open without worrying about it.
Oh, that's a great engineering.
Yep. So you open this one.
Let me get on that side.
And this is the connection for the Bluetooth on the phone. You can put that in there, and you can charge your phone
connection.
through that, and you can listen to your phone music through the stereo.
This one's lockable, that one's lockable.
Yep.
Okay.
You can leave them unlocked without the key, so you can just always open it or close it without the key.
That's cool.
The luggage is super easy. With this, if you leave it in the unlocked position, you just push this button, this comes up. 4 of these to keep it sealed tight. 4 of them.
That's pretty good.
Nice. And a full face helmet on each side easily. Anyway, let's look up here. We'll turn the key on without starting it and just press the button. Let the gauge come to life here. The bike is a mess. I was in the rain the other day.
So this is removable, by the way.
Removable BMW GPS made by Garmin. If I want to control the GPS, right now the triangle is whatever I store, and I've stored the GPS controls. I can change the page. I can zoom out with the wheel over here.
That's cool.
And I can zoom in. You can see that zooming in. Okay, so I can go to page again, and it's got all this other information, the max speed and all that stuff.
You got electric gear, so you can, I guess, plug into there. He's listening to some 80s tunes. Yeah, that's his thing.
It's got.
By the way, Clay is the one that sold me the SD1300. So I traded the Silverwing for the ST, and I got that bike. So kind of incredible. And he's had over 300 bikes, so he knows this stuff. Right, he's going to demonstrate the traction control. Across the wet grass. Famous last words. Oh my God. Full front brakes. He's going to hit the full front brakes. Wow. That is a very good. Should be very effortless to ride because it's similar to the SD1300. The SD1300, as Clay mentioned, it's an older bike, and at the time the same RT was slightly more powerful, slightly better handling, and it was less electronics. This thing has got a lot of electronics, so I'm very curious to see how she's going to feel. So right now, just sitting on it, man, the kickstand is so far forward. So the seating position is very, very neutral. God, the clutch is so easy to pull. Oh my God. All right, first gear. Oh my God, this thing, it feels like I have my knees further up. Very smooth. The one thing you notice when you're riding this bike, you get a lot more wind around like your body. The speed sensation is a little bit higher. Good brakes, and it actually feels like I'm going faster than the SD. You know, the SD 1300 feels like I'm like in a cocoon. It sounds really good. I don't feel a lot of the imperfections of the road, but I think because of the suspension of this, it's a little bit more sport. You feel it, like these little ripples on the road, you actually feel it on this bike. I also like this way of adjusting the suspension and everything. Okay, that's how you select it. Now it's on soft. Shifting is not as smooth as the SD, if you can believe it. Oh yeah, the shifting to soft has completely changed the bike. This thing has got electronic suspension, so that's incredible. The difference is amazing. Oh my God, switching to the soft, it's so much nicer having it in soft for in-town riding, because you know these roads, they're not perfect. So I'm not used to cornering on this, but I can tell right away that it's a very good cornering bike. This thing feels like it's a much lighter bike. Yeah, I can see why guys get this. It feels so much more agile than an older SD 1300. And also the SD 1300 kind of feels like it's for a rider that's bigger. This one feels like it's for a rider, even going over these bumps. You know what, I'm going to switch suspension. I want to see how it feels. I do like the softer suspension for this type of riding, so let me pull over here, and I have set this for soft, so let's see how she does. It's a much thinner bike than the SD 1300 as well. Yeah, you don't get bombarded with wind at any speed on this thing. Oh my God, it is. I could probably do a wheelie on this bike. It's got quite a bit of power in first gear. Yeah, it feels so much better. Like imagine, you go to a city, you ride all day in the corners, and you come up to a city and it's full of these like little things on the road. You just switch to soft. It feels so much nicer to ride.
Hey, I just wanted to tell everybody thanks for watching and checking out Vehicle Hunter. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and check out the rest of his stuff. There's probably some interesting, helpful information there for maybe your next purchase. And stay tuned, because we're going to be adding a lot more content from my neck of the woods down here in Norfolk. I go through motorcycles very quickly, so there'll be lots of up-and-coming information with my collection. And he's going to help get that out there to you guys. Thanks again.